I'm like, hi. And he goes, hi, like looks at me and then keeps walking and then just went on his way. And I was like, neat. That was good. And then
you
I
ever
did
talk to him for real?
After that, no. I was like, well, that was my attempt, and I really don't want to try to talk to him. So I was just like, well, that was super tiny, but hey, like threw it out there.
Hello and welcome to the Christians Who Date podcast. We are coming at you live from Bozeman, Montana.
The best day ever.
That's
which
right.
is Kalli's not hometown, but
But it
kind of
is where I
hometown.
live.
Yeah. Current town.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. Lauren and I both flew out here.
Praise God.
Plot twist. We're here together. We're looking at each
all
other.
Here.
All
yeah.
in the same room.
In the same room.
Might be
Kalli
deceiving,
is not
but-
at a dodgy bar. It looks like she might be, but she's not.
Based on the curtains that are behind me.
If you're listening, these curtains are definitely from Hobby Lobby, probably $1 per yard.
And we're so blessed.
I think they're
Thank
sticky
you.
tape.
Hashtag blessed.
This wall.
Hey, trash talking my trailer curtains, Lauren.
Yeah, Lauren and I are going to be sleeping outside tonight after that podcast
Honestly,
intro.
it's been a dream to be here in Montana, and I'm not leaving. I'm not going back to Los Angeles anytime soon, except Monday. I got to get back to work.
You heard it here first, Los Angeles. I did sit by a boy on the plane.
Let's
He
go.
was
Whoa.
5.
Already jumping in.
Let's celebrate that cloud.
And I was like, cool shark backpack.
I definitely
He
sat
didn't want to
between-
talk to me though.
I sat between two men in their 50s. Both chit-chatted with me, and one wanted to play tic-tac-toe, but it was like him against the computer, and so he couldn't. And then he was making out with this lady when he got off the plane.
Whoa.
I kind of got to see it. I was
did.
like, people in Montana really make out a lot.
I was like, yeah, they do.
The PDA here is just not
So,
what we
Next
expected.
level.
Basically, a lot of people are dating, and there's movement in our lives, is what we're trying to say.
Young, old, doesn't matter.
There is connection. So,
Oh man. We were actually going to go into a little backstory today on the podcast.
Yeah, Andrea's finally letting us talk about how we became friends because I wanted to from the get-go, and she's like, Kalli, nobody cares
need
how we
content
became
first.
Before
friends.
we said one thing about dating, Kalli wanted to talk about our friendship story.
also, this is the podcast, The Christians Who Date.
The
Should we do an
Christians Who
intro?
Date. This is the Christians Who Date podcast.
Yeah.
I think I did say that.
You didn't say our names. That's okay.
I didn't say your names though.
I'm Kalli
Yeah.
Christopherson.
I'm Lauren Bordy.
That's Andrea Alley over there.
And I'm Andrea Alley.
Now we can get started.
Yeah.
And the way we all met was. Were you going to go first? Cal?
Yes, I would love to go
Take
first.
It away.
She's been
Kalli
waiting
loves
for
to
weeks.
tell this story.
And there's a reason why I love to tell this
You're about
story.
to find out why.
So, Andrea and I lived in Redding, California. We both worked at this church, and there was this like massive nursery we worked for. It was like 80 staff, something like that. But I'd seen her around. And one day I went into the mall. I went into Old Navy specifically, where she was also working. And I go to try some stuff on. She's like the attendant at the fitting room. And I'm like, oh, hey, like, I think I know you. Like, don't you work at like the nursery? And she just looks at me with this kind of blank stare and says, yeah. And I'm like, oh, cool. Like, I work there too. I think I've seen you. And she's like, oh, cool. And like hands me my number for the amount of clothes I need. And I'm like, okay, well, thank you. And I go and I try on my clothes and I'm like, that girl hates me. I don't know what happened, but I'm not going to do that again. And so
I'm never talking to her again.
and then well, I don't remember how long it was, but a few months later, we were having like a transition of new roommates coming in, old roommates moving out. And one of my roommates informs me that Andrea is going to be our new roommate. And I'm like, that girl hates me. This is going to be interesting. And so she moves in and, just had to chip away for months and months and months.
Not
Whatever.
And
Best friends
finally won
forever.
her over. And she does not remember this interaction at all.
Literally do not remember it, but I don't deny it because it's pretty on point for where I was at with Old Navy. Not Kalli. It says everything about Old Navy.
Sorry to call Old Navy. What if they want to sponsor us? Not anymore.
But thank
that'd
you
be
so
great.
much for that job that you gave me for 2 years.
Yes. But then we became very, very good friends. And here we are,
Here we are,
today.
against all odds.
Yeah. We lived together for 5 years. So that really, really did something.
Yeah. Whenever there's like a, I don't know, Instagram question or somebody like just throws it out there, like, do you have a friend that you like hated each other at first? We're always like, yes.
Yes. Andrea.
Yes, I
hated
do.
me.
But I didn't actually hate her.
No.
Okay.
She didn't remember this.
And
Yeah.
then where I come in is
Yes.
Kalli and I like to say we're kind of like the yin and yang to help Andrea. We're both Andrea's best friends.
Yep.
And then obviously
Yes.
super close friends through all of this. And so I met Andrea, I think around 11 or 12 years ago when Andrea was jaded from college. And
Not from dating.
she's had a
from
lot
college.
of jadedness. And Kalli and I have been the healers in her life.
It's honestly true.
Met in Hawaii. We were both doing Youth with a Mission, and then I think we met on the beach, and we're just
Yeah.
like, "Oh, what's up?" And she's
Both
like,
had an education.
both had an education
background.
degree,
Yep.
and that's how we connected. And I was like, "Yeah, she's cool." And then we were on the same team in Zimbabwe, Africa,
Mhm.
and that's where I think when you're in Zimbabwe, Africa, it solidifies everything.
When you sleep under a mosquito net together, it's like,
In a twin bed.
I saw her throw
It
up
was
from
a
getting
twin bed.
sick, and so we were just connected with that. And then we were roommates in Northern California, and then we've been long distance friends since. So
Mhm.
through that, the three of us have gotten a lot closer. I'd say the past 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
Lauren was in SoCal and she would drive up to where we were in NorCal.
And steal all your friends, you would say.
yeah,
So I stole
Lauren's one of
Kalli.
those people that steals your friends, but doesn't really steal them.
Shares.
Just shares.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I actually love it because then I'm like, this makes it easy. I can hang out with all of you at once. Perfect.
And then we started to bond, for this podcast the past year and a half
Yeah.
through us almost every day started just sharing in a group chat about dating and
Life and
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
It's been great.
Any boy interaction
Yeah.
really goes into the text thread.
yeah, a
And
lot.
it's been an absolute delight.
And also a horror because we have so much going on.
But sometimes it's nice to
Yeah.
know that people are in it with you.
Yeah.
100%.
And I
Absolutely.
live vicariously through them sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is better than watching a rom-com right now.
Oh, I mean, how else do I entertain myself doing dishes besides listening to your guys' voice notes?
Yeah. Our 16-minute voice notes.
Yeah.
Andrea's done the longest voice note, I think, with 16 minutes.
Yeah. That's when we knew we had podcasting in us. 16-minute voice notes.
But we're here in Montana,
We're here in
which
Montana.
is wild.
My
Just-
homeland.
Yeah. Beautiful time here. I don't know if you guys have ever been to Montana in June-ish, July-ish, but you got to guard your heart because you will fall in love with
It's
this
a dream.
place. Yeah.
Yep. They're moving here soon.
Yeah.
Both of them.
I'm going to become a snowbird.
Yeah.
I literally have said how much I love Montana probably 50 times in the past
it's
24 hours.
so beautiful.
And then I'll probably be like, I hate Montana when it starts snowing.
Yeah.
So I got to guard my heart.
That's
Yeah.
Laura and I's problem is we are like huge wimps when it comes to the
Mm.
cold and the tundra.
The tundra.
The tundra, for sure.
Like one day, Kalli like casually on the text thread is like, yeah, I like drove my car into a ditch.
Oh, yeah. I
From the
did.
snow, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But you're like chill about it. You're like,
She was
it'll be
so
fine.
chill about it. And we're like, what is going on? up
Someone
there?
immediately, like a random neighbor, was like, I got to pick up. I got you. I was like, thank you.
Oh my gosh.
5 minutes. Easy. Done.
I know.
Oh,
Yesterday
my
I was like,
word.
that dust on your car, is that from the salt salt that they use for the snow, and you're like, no, it's just dust.
I was like, that's just
I'm like,
dirt.
oh,
My car's
oh,
dirty.
it's really
Lauren's
dirty
like,
here.
it's so different up here.
Like,
That's
so-
salt from
so
snow.
rugged in this place. Like the
Callie's
people.
like, you guys don't have dirt down
I was
there?
like,
I'm like,
wow,
no,
okay.
I clean my car every week.
You're like, we only have sand.
Oh,
LA.
Oh my
man.
gosh.
So funny.
Anyways, but Andrea, would
Yeah.
you like to kick us off with what we're talking about today?
Yes. Today's going to be a good one.
Yeah.
When Kalli threw this out there as a podcast idea, we were like, yes. She was like, let's talk about our fails and our successes.
Come on.
Episode
with
3.
dating.
Bring it to the people.
Yeah. And we're going to give you a wide range. We're going to give you like tiny fails and tiny successes, and then some big fails.
Yeah.
And big successes.
And big successes. You're
That's
right.
good.
Yeah,
Praise
because
God.
we have those too. So yeah, I'm gonna kick it off with another Old Navy story.
Wait, is this a fail or a success?
This is a fail. We're gonna go into fails first. We want to end on a high note.
Yes.
You know, for you guys.
Give the
So,
people hope.
give the people some hope.
And just to preface, this is for both men and women. We're just sharing like our stories of fails and successes. We feel like it's transferable for both genders to learn and live from and
Yeah.
laugh at.
Yes. Please laugh at us. We're laughing at ourselves.
Yeah.
So, and each other.
Amen.
We're ready,
Yeah.
Dre. Let's
Okay.
hear it.
Yeah.
So, Old Navy, same season in my life. And I am folding clothes, and this guy walks in and he's wearing like army fatigues. And I'm like, oh, he's cute, you know? And I really believed in myself at that time.
As you should.
So I'm like, this guy gonna come in and ask me on a date, you know, because I could tell he was like coming towards me. And so he walks up to me and I'm like smiling, and he's like, hey, I have a question for you. And I'm like, here we go, you know? And he's like, have you ever thought about joining the army? And I was like, so like caught off guard, like, what? And he's like, it's not just for guys. We need some good women too.
Women are also in the army if you
I
didn't
love
know.
the
Yeah.
inclusivity.
And I was like, you know, it's not really for me. I don't think so. And he's like, are you sure? We could get you out of this place. Pay for your education.
So
And
good.
he's like pointing around Old Navy, like, we could pay for your education, get you out of this place.
The slums.
And yeah. And I didn't have the heart to tell him that I was actually working at Old Navy with a college degree. So I did not need the army to pay for my college because I had already paid for it. But I was still working retail during that time in my life.
so good.
So yeah, pretty.
We
Just,
loved
you
the
know,
confidence.
yeah, but also funny when you like just totally misread the situation. You're like, oh, this is not the conversation I thought we were gonna have. Okay.
Right. Totally.
Get you out of this place.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Kalli, do you have any fail stories for us?
I do. I think I mentioned this in one of our other podcasts, but for me, I can have a tendency to just get like a little shy and awkward when like there is somebody I want to talk to. And so I remember this one time, I had talked to this guy previously, and like we actually like had a really good conversation, and I was like, oh sweet, like yeah, just like easy to talk to this guy. I was at a party and he was there, and I was like, okay, I want to try to talk to this guy, but like I don't want to go up and like bridge the gap. So I kind of like waited a little bit. Like there was some music playing, I think. So I was just kind of like chilling, waiting. But anyways, finally I was like, okay, you know, like at the end of this set, I'm gonna go like talk to him. And so music ends. I'm like, okay. So I turn around, like I go up to him, and he's like walking. He's like on his way somewhere, but like I kind of was like in the way. So we stop, and I'm like, hi. And he
Is that
goes,
part of your strategy to just be in the way?
no, it honestly, it's not a bad one, but that was not my strategy. But I just literally, I'm like, hi. And he goes, hi, like looks at me and then keeps walking. But he was trying to like fix something. Like he was like
Oh.
also part of like, I think the music, whatever. their equipment needed something, whatever. So
Yeah.
he was in the
He was
middle
on
of
a
something.
mission.
But I just love the literal, like, he was like, hi, and then just went on his way. And I was like, neat. That was good. And
did
then
you
I
ever
did.
talk to him for real?
After that, no. I was like, well, that was my attempt, and I really don't want to try to talk to him. So I was just like, well, that was super tiny, but hey, like, threw it out there, you know.
Nice job.
Thank you. But yeah, I would say just more along the lines of, like, for me, a big one has just been like, okay, like, actually bridging the gap and being like, I'm gonna go talk to this person, even though everything in me wants to just kind of hide away and, like, let them come find me,
Yep.
or they won't find me, and then I'll go home and I'll be upset. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, well, that's also mostly on me. Like,
Yeah.
I could have gone and done something, and it didn't
Yeah.
have to be super smooth. I just needed to literally break the ice.
Yeah.
So
So you threw yourself in his path.
I threw myself. I did. I did think that later. I'm like, that was a fail, but hey, I gave it a shot.
That
Well
was
done.
a good,
Yeah.
almost like to throw your body in front of them.
It's like,
Whatever it takes.
at least he'll run into me.
I am here.
I'm here. You saw me. I spoke.
I feel like sometimes people do that when I go running on this like running trail. There'll be like people that like guys will like get right in my direction. I'm like, I'm not looking at you. So I like that.
Thank
It
you.
definitely catches attention.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
Okay, Lauren, what about you?
So one of mine, I'd say, is more of like a really big bummer. I still think about it. Like there's, for maybe some of you listening, there's ones that you almost hold on to for a while that you're like, I really regret this situation, but I learned a lot from it. I was in, this was my early 20s. I was going to school and moved out to the school and hardly knew anybody. And this guy became like my instant like best friend. And we hung out every day and just super well connected. And I, in my mind, was like, oh, I'm not as physically attracted as I could be. So I was like, oh, he's just my best guy friend. But we connected so well. Values aligned, like everything aligned. If I really look back, but I had this idea of like, oh, I'm just not like as physically attracted, and you're not as quote, quote, athletic as I'd want you to be. So I had these like interesting kind of perfectionistic standards of what I needed to date someone. And so, I mean, yeah, just so many things that were like amazing about this person. And then he, came and said, like, I think it was like a couple months later, like, hey, I really like you. And I was like, oh, I don't like you. And I don't ever see us dating. Like, I like was harsh. And to me, it was just this small attraction piece that could have easily grown. I could have given it a chance, anything. So he actually, like, a couple months later went on and met his wife, like, and now they're together. And I look back on that situation and I'm like, oh my gosh, he was actually like perfect for me in a lot of ways. And he even like got athletic and like got like to the point of like, I would say like attractive for me.
Yeah.
But I didn't give it that room, and I was immature and just was kind of like surfacey in that situation. I can even like feel the pain now of like oh, I regret that I didn't give that opportunity to grow into something more, because I had these like really surfacey things of what I wanted in a guy that I would date. So it's such a bum. I like regret it because I'm like, that guy is awesome.
Yeah.
But I'm also very happy for that situation of where his life went. And then, but it is like, you're like, oh, I wonder what my life could have been like. And so I have to like really guard my mind of like, well, that's not where my life went, So
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you feel like you were more like fixated on like having like a certain type back then?
Certain type. And I thought I knew, even though I hadn't really dated much, of like, oh, I've got to have this really like romantic feel for this person before I date them.
Yeah.
So I had this like thing of like, we've got to be like super attracted to each other, crazy chemistry, when really I look at the facts of like, oh, we actually had so much compatibility and it would have grown into chemistry probably.
Yeah.
And it's interesting too, because you use the phrase like there was some attraction there, but not like a lot. Yeah. And so it's like, oh, like there was attraction, because there are people where you're like,
Mhm.
there's actually just no attraction, and you can try and you're like, I still don't have anything.
Yeah.
But for that, you were like, no, there actually was attraction.
Well, and that was the person I wanted to spend the most time with.
Mm.
The person that was actually my best friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then, so it was interesting. It was like, that was my best friend at the time. But then I let this, and then when I was like, oh, well, we can't date. And so I actually like just cut off our friendship, and it broke his heart. Like it broke his heart. I mean, thankfully,
Yeah.
a couple
He
months
bounced
later,
back.
he bounced back and he's doing great. He's having a great
Yeah.
life. So yeah, it was like an interesting, like bum regret, but I learned from it of like, oh, I need to like give time for people to, and then it really helped me challenge like, oh, is it just an like this has to be the specific attraction piece to get to know someone romantically. So I don't know. Okay, Andrea, you got another one? I still feel the pain of it.
Yeah,
Ugh.
I know. I'm sorry.
It's okay. This
It's
is where we
hard.
learned.
It's really, that
It's
one's
true.
hard.
Yeah. Yeah, one of mine is funny because we talked about Callie's like how she's like so good at flirting. And so this was like right in the middle of me realizing like Callie is really good at flirting. And she has like this very
yes.
specific type of banter where she just like gives people crap, and like if I do it, it like sounds like I'm a jerk, but for
old
some
Navy
reason,
side comes out. No, just
Yeah.
kidding. I'm just kidding.
when Callie does it, they like fall in love with her. It's like heart eyes emoji. So anyway, but I'm like, maybe that's just in my head, you know? So what happened was I met this guy on a dating app, and he, like the morning of the date, we kind of start like he texts me something that I'm like, oh, I think he's like kind of giving me crap. And I got excited about it because I was like, this is how Callie flirts, and it's like works out for her, and I can do this too because I can give people crap.
Which you do, and you do a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's how I felt. I was like, Callie and I can give each other crap. Like me and this guy can give each other crap. So I start like giving it back on over text, and I'm getting like so pumped for this date. Like I'm like, this is gonna be so good. Like we're just gonna like have this banter back and forth. So I get to the date, and he's like very standoffish, and I'm like pumped, you know. I'm like, hey, what's up? I'm Andrea. And he's just like
So
very guarded. And so then I have to spend like the first, I want to say like 30 minutes at least of that date, like just trying to get him to feel comfortable around me, which thankfully my like main goal in life is to make, probably to a fault, is to make people feel comfortable. So thankfully I pulled it off, but it took a while to get there. And then at the end of the date, he basically gave me the feedback that coming into the date, he thought I was going to be one of those girls that thinks it's really funny to flirt like and be like aggressive.
Oh no.
He used the word aggressive.
Did you feel you were aggressive?
I didn't feel like I was being aggressive, but it's also like over text. Like, you know, when you text someone that you don't know
Someone
their
can
humor,
totally interpret it.
yeah, it can feel.
I've
I've
had
probably
that.
felt
Yeah.
aggressive over text.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he didn't know my
Oh,
humor.
texting.
Which that's kind of how it is for dry humor too. Like I
Yeah.
love dry
Mhm.
humor, but I have to be careful because over Instagram or text when somebody doesn't know me, you can't just like kick it off with dry humor because they're like, "What are you?"
That's true,
talking
especially
about?
since you're so sweet, and then to have it, they're like, "Oh my gosh, that person's mad at me," and you're like, "I'm joking, I'm joking."
Yeah, I'm like, no, I'm totally kidding. Yeah, or I'll just say stuff where I'll be like, "Oh, what? Really?" And people think I'm like a total idiot, but I'm like, no, I actually do know what you're talking about. So, you know, it's fine. Just find some people that also have your dry humor if you're into that.
That's right.
So, yeah, that was my story of trying to flirt like Callie, but falling on my face. So I've had to go back to my own flirting.
There we go. So I think I'm seeing a tip is just be your authentic self. Don't try to be like your
Yes.
best friends.
Be yourself, even though you love your best friends and they're so funny. Just, you got to be yourself.
But I guess it's good that you tried it out, though. It sounds almost like it was a little bit more on him. I don't want to fully blame the guy, but there was some like sensitivity on his, but there was
Yeah.
miscommunication. So I guess
Yeah.
that was the biggest piece.
Yeah.
Well, and I
Miscommunication.
wonder, like, if it had been in person instead of over text, maybe he could have picked it up a little bit more.
Yeah,
like the
totally.
like playfulness of it instead of feeling like, oh my gosh, this girl's like,
because he didn't know you. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
online dating.
But I was like, I haven't been called aggressive since high school
Ever?
soccer.
yeah.
Yeah. High school soccer
Yeah,
when
if
I
you see
got
her
2
playing
yellow
soccer,
cards and
look
got
out.
kicked out of a game. Okay.
She sure did.
the head nod.
Just
She gets
story
aggressive
for another
She
time.
gets aggressive towards us as well for all the time, any day, anything. Okay, Kalli,
day.
what about you?
Okay. So something we had mentioned prior to recording this was, what does like failure look like for us specifically? And for me, I had a pattern, and I didn't realize this till later, but I had a pattern of like thinking about a guy, liking him, and then reaching a point where I'm like, oh, I can't see this going any further because like, oh, I don't think his family and I would like get along. And I like barely knew the guy. Like I would just like kind of imagine a world in which we would date and find something that, oh, we wouldn't work out because of this, and then be like, well, I need to shut this down then because we won't date. So it's pointless to like him and grow these feelings. So in my head, I was like, no, I'm actually like doing the right thing because I'm not like fostering feelings for the wrong people. I'm just like trying to do the right thing and like the right guy. And at one point, there was this guy, and we like saw each other like all the time. I think we worked at the same place. And I started to have feelings for him, but once again, I reached a point where I was like, oh, well, like I can't like him because of these reasons. And honestly, they were really like valid reasons. But I remember the Lord actually kind of like caught my attention, and he's like, hey, like this is like a pattern that you have, and I want you to actually not shut your heart down. He's like, just like let yourself have feelings for this guy, like, and you don't need to know exactly where it's gonna go. And I was like, oh, okay. And so it was like really scary at the time because I was just like, okay, like I'm just gonna kind of take a risk and not know where this is gonna go. But like I feel like I'm hearing the Lord, and I brought some friends into it too. Andrea was actually one of the main people. I was like, okay, this is what I'm like going through. I like this guy. This is how I'm feeling. Please be my accountability partner. Like if what I'm saying starts to get weird, like please feel free to like call me out.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. But I'm like, I'm just trusting that I'm like hearing the Lord, and I'm gonna like this guy and just kind of see what happens. And so what ended up happening was like,
I had to call her out so many times.
she's like,
That's
Kalli,
Just
all Andrea
constantly.
does is call
Yeah.
us
you're
out.
being a slut. No,
She got
no.
home from work and I'd be like, where have you been?
Who did you talk to? Tell me the report. No,
Totally kidding.
yeah, completely kidding.
Don't think I ever said anything.
She didn't
I
say
was like,
sarcastic.
hey,
This is
good
where the
job.
sarcastic
Yeah.
banter
I was like,
comes
good job
in, that
flirting,
we
Cal. You're really
understand.
growing.
Yeah, she's like proud of me. Like, get it, girl. But yeah, what ended up happening was I like really ended up liking this guy, and it kind of like ended abruptly. Like something happened with work, and I wasn't able to see him anymore. So nothing did happen with us romantically, but liking him was actually like a really healing experience and really redemptive. He was so kind and so many areas that I had been hurt in the past, like he specifically redeemed for me. And had I gone my usual route of shutting my heart down, I never would have experienced that. And so I'm so thankful that I let myself like him. And also, you know, to be honest, initially when I met him, I was not attracted to him. I was just like, oh, yeah, that's this guy. But we got along so well. And because of that, like, I actually was really attracted to him. And like, I liked him so much. And so I'm so thankful for like going on the journey of that. Yeah, so that's kind of like my failure, and then, you know, turned into success.
Failure to
in its own
success.
ways.
Yeah.
So-
or learning from failures.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, because we definitely can put up our guards or fantasize of like what we think we need or want.
Yeah.
It's like a protection mechanism.
Yeah.
Because I've definitely
absolutely.
done that before too.
Absolutely.
And I feel like, especially with Christians, although maybe it's with everybody, but there's this like, it just has to be a yes or a no. And we
Yeah.
don't like the in between.
Totally.
And so we don't always allow ourselves to go on the journey and be in that weird in between phase where you're like, okay, I'm allowing myself to have feelings. Like we're just like, I don't know, we just edit ourselves so much
Yeah.
that we don't always like allow our heart to like feel what it's feeling and God and let God father us through the journey even, you know,
Well,
because
we're afraid of making mistakes.
yes,
Yes.
it's true.
We're afraid of doing it imperfectly and being messy.
Yeah.
I honestly, personally, am afraid of being judged by
Yeah.
other Christians.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
for
so,
sure.
and you all have heard different things where I'm like, I feel so like I'm going to be judged for this decision, XYZ.
Yeah.
Totally.
And so just having to, there's even like a communal pressure, inward pressure.
Yeah.
And then we're like, okay, well, what does God think about us in this?
Right.
So,
Yeah. And I think we all probably in like our early 20s, we like were the people judging.
Yep.
So
Yep.
like I'm like I think about how like 21-year-old me would be judging myself so hard, but when you like reach this point and you're like trying and you're like allowing yourself to be messy and you just like I don't know, you let go of some of that like perfectionism. I think you get to the point where you're just like, I don't know, it gets harder and harder to judge people for me.
Totally.
Like the older I get, I'm like, dude, we're all trying.
We're trying
like,
our best.
Yeah.
And I love what you said like an earlier episode, but it was just like we're learning. Like
yeah.
and we just there's never a point we reach where it's like, oh, I'm done learning.
Right.
So you just gotta lean into it and try your best, and that's really all we can do.
Yeah. And I think God fathers us differently. Like there's probably people out there where he's like reining it in
Yeah.
a little.
Totally.
Rein it in a little, you know?
Yeah.
But for Kalli, it was like,
Yeah.
let it go a little. you know?
Yeah. For me, my tendency's always been don't make a move unless it's perfect. So he's like, you need to like actually let go of that. And like you said, for other people who it's everywhere, he's like, you need to
Rein it in.
Yeah. So that's a good point of being like, where are you at in your journey and what's God saying to you about this?
Totally. Yeah. You can't just be like, well, God said that to that person, so I'm going to keep going wild.
Well, and I think something I like about what Kalli was sharing was that you invited people into the process.
Yeah.
So you invited people's voices that you trust. You're not just listening to everyone, but you're connecting with God, connecting with yourself, connecting with like those that you trusted voices.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
that's good.
Yeah. Because anyone who knows you is like, you're probably fine.
Yeah. So good. I'll share one last fail and then we'll transition over to successes, which will be really fun. So one fail of mine, I guess mine are heavier fails, but I was like, I feel like I need to share some of these. Is
some heavy hitters
for the fails. There's always some good heart fails, some light fails, hard fails. We all. So anyways, sometimes there's fails you feel like I just hit my face on the cement.
There's a lot of good memes
and
of
I'm
those.
still laying there. No. So a while ago, I started dating a guy who was not a Christian, and he was so wonderful in so many ways, but my gut knew, and you all know my process with this, my gut knew I was not supposed to be dating this person. And there was a lot of red flags like from the start, but I like was lying to myself because I had needs that needed met that this person was meeting. And the best way I can describe it was like almost like I was given like a big piece of cake and I was like, I gotta have more cake. Like I just really like this, even though my gut knew like this is not what's best for me. I had friends be like, this isn't what's best for you. And I think I had never dated a non-Christian at that time. And I was just like, I don't care. Like I'm in love with this person. I felt pretty hard for this person. And so I think through that, I mean, we dated a while and then got close to engagement and broke it off. And it was so painful, but I reflect and I look at like, oh, I like really denied my gut and I denied like wisdom in my life because I wanted what I wanted. And God was so gracious in that whole process of being so tender and so kind to me. But I think I just learned like a lot of like, oh, there's a reason we have like gut checks. There's a reason why we have values that we don't deny, because like it helps us operate like our life and our relationship with God and with others. So that was like a fail, but I think I learned a lot from that, of like really sticking to my values even when it's hard, really seeking wisdom, and also knowing like God actually has what's best for me, even if I think I know what's best for me. Or
Yeah.
and so that's like helped me even like figure out like, how do I get my needs met in like a really healthy way, and it doesn't have to be just through like one person I date, which sounds like weird, because like there is like needs that will be met when you're romantically dating somebody,
Right.
that friendship and that intimacy. But I think it's in a way where it's like, yeah, I get why God wants you to date someone that has the same values as you, so you don't have to deny parts of yourself. It should be shared. So that is something like feels like a huge fail that I'm still like processing through, but I'm like, oh, okay, I've learned like so much from it as well. So yeah.
Also, just wanted to mention, like, within that story, like, this person, they also started going to church and, like, said that they had a relationship with God. And so there was, like, a lot that seemed to change for this person.
Yes.
And so it wasn't just like you were like, I'm going to potentially marry this like non-Christian. Like it looked like there was a lot of transformation that had happened in this person.
Yeah.
So really, like,
it wasn't like cut and dry.
yes, that's
Yeah,
exactly.
That's true. That's true.
Just wanted to mention that.
It was
to the
messy.
story.
Maybe
Yeah.
that's better than like a fail, but it felt like a huge mess.
Totally.
By the end of it.
Totally.
But I think that's part of the risk of romance, the risk of intimacy relationship, is the outcomes might not be what you want, which is for us, like we want to be married and like, you know, and have kids and all that. So it was like, oh, that was just felt so messy. And I don't know how I could have prevented it, but
yeah.
If
you could go back and talk to Lauren at the beginning of that relationship,
oh gosh,
is there anything you would tell her?
You know, I honestly felt like that Lauren needed to go through it.
Yeah.
I think that who I was needed that process of learning, even though I wish I could never make mistakes and never have regrets and never be messy. I think I learned best through through processes of mistakes and failures. So I probably would have just been like, be a little bit kinder to yourself, and you're not going to be you're not going to mess up your life. Like, because there's such a fear, like as a Christian, if you date the wrong person, you're going to mess up your life. If you marry the wrong person, you're going to mess up your life. And that's so high stakes, right?
Yeah.
And to believing like God's goodness is he has good things for us. You know?
Yeah. He's not like banking everything on us being perfect.
Or like if you have to marry the perfect person to have the perfect life. It's like, it's actually about God at the end of the day. 'Cause we don't know what's going to happen. Like
totally.
Our partner could get sick. So many things can happen. But if you have God as the foundation, he says he'll give us peace. He says he'll give us joy. You know, he says he'll help us.
Yeah.
And so, So
yeah, I do feel like, just to tack on to that, there is something about reaching that point where you're trying to wrap your mind around forever with somebody.
So intense.
Yeah. I'm actually thankful that I got to the point where I was trying to wrap my head around that as well, because I think it's given me a whole new approach to dating. Because I think before I was a little more like, I can like be flexible and I can be adaptable and I can bend over backwards for somebody. And I was a lot more like, I need to like just be, whoever I need to be to find someone. And then when you realize like, oh, whoever I make myself to be with this person is who I'm going to have to make myself for the rest of my life. Like, I know somebody could have told me that, but actually like getting to the point where I had to realize it for myself was really eye-opening. So I think you're right. I think sometimes I know, but I think sometimes you do just need to like, you just need to go through it and it will help you maybe with the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on that sad note, which, sometimes you have sad things happen.
You do.
Dre, let's transition over to dating successes.
Success.
Success.
This too, we're gonna have like a wide range of what success looks like, because you gotta celebrate. You gotta celebrate the small successes,
The small wins.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, we were just kind of chatting through this podcast earlier, and I was telling the story of I met this guy also on a dating app. Just
That's good.
all about the
So-
apps. And with him, I feel like when you're like sold out for Jesus, you can tell pretty quickly when somebody's not
What do you mean by sold out? Just
sold
so
out.
anyone
Just
who doesn't
like
know that language.
Jesus is the everything for
Best
me.
thing
Like it's
ever.
yeah, it's more than just like a cultural, like going through the motions, going through church, going to church on Sunday because that's what we do. Like it's like, no, I'm like surrendered, and my whole life revolves around this, Jesus. And so, because there's a range, I think, of Christians. But anyway, so I could tell this guy had said like on his profile said he was Christian, but I could tell even on our first date, I was like, oh, I can already tell that we're not on the same page with this. Just because I feel like when you meet somebody who is on the same page, like you start throwing things out there and they get so excited.
Yeah.
Like you start talking about your faith and they come back at you with like equal excitement. And so I could kind of already tell, but that was the first time that I was like, you know what? I'm not just going to cut it off with this guy. I'm not just going to make assumptions and decide that I know where he's at. I'm going to actually have conversations and talk through things. And he ended up being like an amazing person to like do that for the first time with, because he was mature and had serious relationships in the past, so he had practice like talking through things. And so anyway, we got to the point where through conversation, like I did realize, okay, we're not on the same page about stuff as far as like there's clear standards that I feel like the Bible lays out that he doesn't feel like are clear. And so he wasn't living like probably at the same level, I guess, of like surrender and like I think it was interesting. But anyway, so I was like, I came to the point where I was like, okay, I don't think we're compatible here. But we actually talked through it and we got to the point where we ended up breaking it off. It wasn't like, I think we'd only gone on like 3 or 4 dates or something. But we'd had conversations over the phone and stuff as well. But that was the first time I like had really owned my values and the way that I wanted to live and my standard, and asked somebody else what theirs was. And like genuinely, I was like, okay, I'm not here to judge. I'm here to like be curious. And at the end of the day, like I'm going to ask for what I need. And those were all
I
things
love that.
I needed to grow in, so that was a really good experience for me. Kalli, what is going on in
There's like a lot going on in Montana.
There's just like gunshots
There's
going
like
off.
fireworks. There's
People are
trucks.
hunting.
It's I think
Montana.
there's a bear right outside our window.
It's Wild West
What's up,
out
bear?
here.
I like how it was right at the end of my story. They're like,
Yeah.
boom, boom.
I want to
finish.
comment on that, Andrea. I think that's so helpful for those listening about dating, is figuring out what are your standards and what are you willing to maybe compromise when it comes to your standards, and what are you willing to say, no, these are like non-negotiables.
Yeah.
And these are what I'm going to stick by. And it's just boundaries. Like you were talking about with Henry Cloud.
Yeah.
What are my boundaries when it comes to dating, and like when do I flex those boundaries? When do I like stick to those boundaries? Like, no, these boundaries aren't going to be crossed. Like we're all always talking about that and kind of figuring out like, what does that look like as a Christian, as a woman? Sometimes I change my boundaries. Sometimes I pull my boundaries back. Sometimes I like loosen them a little bit. And so I love that you're like, no, these are like what I stood up for me personally.
Yeah. Which, and to be honest, like that was a big part of it, is I was like, I know how hard it is to keep boundaries when both of you want to keep them. And I don't want to be the only one that is fighting for these boundaries. Like, I don't want to put myself in that position, because that just sounds like really difficult. So that was like kind of the kicker was I was like, if you have way different boundaries than me and I'm the one that's like holding us to this,
It's exhausting.
really like higher standard, then that's going to be really tough for me. So that was kind of a big
And I
reason.
assume those boundaries were like faith, emotionally, physically, spirit, like
it
could be like a ton of different things.
Physically,
Or maybe
but
it was just physically. Okay.
yeah.
You're like, do not hold my hand. No, joking.
Like he wanted to hold hands and I was
Whoa.
like, absolutely not.
Like crossing
She's
the
joking,
line.
people. This girl hugs sometimes.
Side only.
Side only.
Jokes.
Yeah, that's not true because I'm tall, so I can't even side hug everyone like unless I'm just like bending over like totally.
Oh my gosh.
She actually recently shared a story about hugging someone that was taller than her and how
like this
it was
really
weird.
tall man. I was like, how do I do this? Like I only
was
hug
so
people that
amazing
are
to
like around
hear.
my height or
It was so
shorter.
amazing. I loved it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
so good. Thanks, Trey.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, Cal.
Me.
Success story.
Success. For me, again, just with the range of different things of like what does success look like, I think for me, a skill that I've really tried to hone over the years is having hard conversations.
You're so good at them.
Guys,
You're so good at them.
It's super fun. But there have been a lot of times where I'm like with a guy, we reach a certain point where I'm like, okay, like we need to chat about where this is going, or like maybe I like him and I'm waiting to see what's happening and I'm like, cool, he'll bring it up and then he doesn't bring it up. And I'm like, well, I need to have a conversation. So there was this one time where it sort of happened twice. So me and this guy were getting to know each other. And I reached a point where I was like, okay, I need to know where this is at. And I had waited hoping he would bring it up, and he did not bring it up. And so to honor my voice, I was like, all right, I'm going to have to bring it up, and that's okay. So hung out with this guy and was like, hey, like, would just love to know where you're at. Like, we have been like hanging out, going on dates basically. Where are you at? And at the time, like, we chatted it out, decided like, okay, think we're just gonna remain friends. That's great. But looking at the year coming up, we were like, we're gonna be ending up spending a lot of time together because we were helping at like the same organization. And so we end up like spending a lot of time together, and my heart just keeps like growing in affection for this guy. And it was very clear like he was not thinking that. He was like living his life. I would see him like flirting with other girls.
So hard.
And it was
not
just
other girls.
So
like,
hard
what?
flirting.
And I was just like, this is super fun. And so there was a point in the year where it changed a bit, and he was like kind of himself again with me, because for a while he'd been kind of distant, but he was himself around me again. And like I said, I just kept having feelings for him. And so the end of the year is coming up, and I'm like, I'm going to have another conversation with him, or I'm like, cool, I have feelings for you. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure I know that he's going to say like he doesn't have feelings for me. But once again, I was like, what does success look like for me? It looks like standing up for myself, and it looks like giving my heart a voice. And so funny enough, he ended up like moving away, and I like wasn't able to have this conversation with him in person, which is what I wanted. But I was like, I still need to have this conversation. So I end up like asking him like just through text. I was like, hey, is it okay if we like chat for a little bit? And he's like, yeah, that's totally fine. So we talk, and towards the end of the conversation, I was like, okay, I need to tell you something. Like, I've actually had feelings for you this year.
Let's go.
I don't know where you're at.
Where's he at? Tell me.
And I don't have any like expectations of you, but I just needed to let you know where I was at. And he responded so well. Like he he was like, thanks for like having the balls to tell me.
Guys say that. I've had guys say that to me
I was
too.
like,
I'm like,
I don't actually have those, but I get what you're saying.
Thank you.
And you're welcome, I guess.
Ballsy.
But he was very sweet, and he covered me, and we had a really good conversation and got to clear a couple things up, because there were some things throughout the year that he was like, yeah, like you're right about this, or what have you. But it ended with him being like, yeah, like I actually don't, like, I'm not in that same space, but I care about you, and like I want to remain friends, and
Very kind.
we're still friends to
Yeah.
this day. So for me, like,
You better
having
regret that conversation.
yeah, that's right. But
I take it all back.
I take it all back. Take it all back. But for me, like, that was a really huge, like, I'm like, I know going into this, like, I don't think he feels the same way, but so I could have easily just been like, well, cool, I can shut that down, because like I said, that's my go-to move. But in that, I was like, no, I'm gonna have this conversation, and I'm gonna grow from it. And I've had so many like difficult conversations since then. But that was probably like up until that point, like the biggest one that I had. And so, yeah, success having those hard conversations.
Yeah. Man, if you can have hard conversations, you can date.
You can date. Dating is for you.
Needle point that on a pillow, somebody.
Yeah. And I think that's good too, is then you didn't have it in the back of your head. Like you had it in the back of your head, you laid it out there, and then you're at least able to have clarity so you can move forward.
Totally.
And
Yeah.
not regret. Like, did he ever like me? Could we have ever had something that's
Yes.
like,
Yep.
okay, we won't.
Yep.
But at least I shared, and I was really brave. in
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
And that is something I would have always wondered about. I'm like, if I had that conversation, like,
Right.
what could have
What could have
happened?
happened?
Yeah.
So just having that clarity was such a gift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've talked about that before. Like, I think as I've gotten older, because when I was
We're
young,
so old.
So old.
as I've gotten old and wise, because when you're young, it's like I was so afraid of getting rejected, and I still am, but
Yeah.
I just continually, I'm like, if I reach like 40, 50 years old and I'm still single, I want to be able to look back and be like, I did my best.
Yeah.
Like I don't have any regrets. There aren't any words left unspoken. Like it's not because I didn't risk, I guess,
Yeah.
is like the bottom line. I want to be able to look back and be like, well, it's not because I didn't put myself out there,
So
like
good.
I really tried.
Good.
And yeah, it is like, even like there's guys that the guys I think of that I like fell the hardest for, like I'm thankful for the ones that I actually talked to, because now I'm like, yep, that's for sure a closed door.
Yeah.
Because they closed it on their end.
Yeah.
So I can't look back and be like, but what if, like, could have, like, what could have been or whatever, because I'm like, nope, they closed the door.
Yeah.
There's no way for me to control them. So
Yeah.
Good.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
Lauren, I would love to hear about your successes.
Yeah, you guys are going to
Please.
smile at my success, because they were really a part of the journey. There was a guy at church that I really, really liked. Like, first time I saw him, I was like, oh my gosh, you are like my dream crush. You are my dream crush. I was like telling Andrea and Kalli, but I was like, I have no chance with this guy. Like, no chance. He didn't know who I was.
And we were like, we don't know about that.
Yeah. I'm like, have you seen yourself?
Oh my
Please.
gosh. I just was like, this guy will never notice me. And I just liked him so much. And I just thought he was the dream, which we've all had those where we're like, you are like my dream. I don't know how I'll ever get you to like me, but I can dream.
A girl can dream.
And I can show up every Sunday looking real fly.
That's right.
And just worship the Lord and
Be so passionate
just
for the
be
Lord.
so on fire for God, and that glory will just show. So I started just placing myself in like physical spaces as the same person, and
Smart.
and
yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
very strategic.
I started going to like every church event. Like I was like, I don't know how, but I want to.
Lauren grew in her faith
I
so
grew in
much
my faith
during that time.
while really putting myself out there and just getting to know the community around this person. And I just, but it was like 9 months of just growing in friendship with this person. And you know, when you're like, oh, I think there's something between us, but maybe I'm making it up. And so I think in my brain, I was like, oh, maybe this person isn't interested in me. And then I remember there was like, this was like months later, they in a group chat were like, you want to come to a hangout at my house? And it was like with 10 people. And I was like, he likes me. You know? I'm like, he totally said to me.
You're like, I'm in.
Because he invited me to his house with 10 others. And I remember going there and
invited me on a group date.
and also I remember going
Yes.
there and I was wearing like a tie-dye shirt, like really chill outfit. And
Looking
I'm like,
sexy.
no, I don't know. I was like, oh my gosh. I like, it was a little too chill, but he like talked to me for a little and it was like a going away party for someone. I was like, oh my gosh, this is the best. Like
Best
and-
party ever.
yeah, best party ever. I was
Did
so
he compliment your tie-dye
I
specifically?
probably he definitely like would always like try to talk to me and I'm like, oh, he's just being nice. He's a nice Christian guy. So then I remember it was like a couple I was like kind of reaching out to this guy too. Reach in. Now I had his number, you know? So I would be like, oh, you want to go on a hike with some people? And that person was like, sure. And so we like went on a group hike.
Group
And
date
then
again.
there was like a time
Another group date.
there was like one Sunday after church where I was like, what are you up to? And he was like, oh, nothing. You want to hang? And I was like, yes. We went and got lattes and went to the beach.
Whoa.
And I was like, is this like, it's just us.
Where is the
Here.
group?
Like, where's the group? And so the groups were getting smaller and smaller. But again, I was like, oh, we're just friends, you know? But I was like, this is amazing. So I'd call Andrea and Kalli and be like, there's maybe hope. There's maybe hope.
Right.
So then this has been 9 months, y'all. 9-month process.
A baby
Laying the
could have been
groundwork.
born in that
Laying
amount of
the
time.
groundwork.
It was a birthing process to get to a date. So anyways, then I remember I was like, I'm going crazy. Like I was like, I just need to talk to this person. And so I was like, hey, can we have like a phone call? And so I called the guy and I was like, hey, I just have to be honest, like we're hanging a lot, we're friends, but I like really like you. Like I just need to know if we should just be friends or am I making this up? Like, is there something between us so I can be normal around you? If so, or move on. And he was like, no, I was actually about to call you and like say that I really like you too. And like, can I take you on a date this week? And I was like, and so that started our dating process.
And then she called us and we were like,
Yeah. We all screamed in our room.
I had liked this guy for so long.
we'd
and
all
so
been on the journey.
it felt like
together.
a win to like, you know, you like have this whole process of pining and then you get to a point where it's like, oh, okay, it's in return.
Mhm.
And it was, you know, a sweet season for that part of dating life. So that was a
Yes.
success in my brain. Well,
Yes.
like I had to wait and I didn't make it up. And it was kind of nice.
Yeah. Your
So-
guys' first date was like super fun.
It was
too.
really sweet.
I remember that.
Yeah, it was
yeah,
really
I
sweet.
remember you talking about it.
I was like,
oh my gosh, we're like,
I was
all
like, what do
cheesing.
I wear?
Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
it's like those are so fun. The initial dating phase when
Oh,
you're
it's
like,
so fun.
okay, I'm gonna like this outfit or this outfit.
Bringing my
and-
A game.
you know, and like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And it was like an hour-long date, and you're like, that was amazing.
Yeah, best date ever.
Best date ever. I'm really nervous. I'm gonna throw up. So
Give me a bucket.
yeah, give me a bucket. I didn't throw up. Okay, Andrea, on to you.
Oh
Now,
man,
any successes?
Yes. Okay, this was when Kalli and I were living together.
That's right. I
Um,
don't even know what this story is.
she's
like, yeah,
But
that's
then we
it
know
was
the
a long
stories.
5 years, so
Yeah,
you know, there was some
it's a high chance.
a lot of dating that
Oh, you
happened.
guys live together?
Yeah.
we told that on the podcast.
Thank goodness. People know now.
And I met this guy not on a dating app, IRL
In
real
the
life.
flesh.
Yeah,
IRL.
in the flesh. I met him.
ITL in the flesh?
Yeah.
ITL, IRL in real life. Okay,
no,
cool.
IT. Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, he was kind of like just in our world a little bit, and I like started crushing on him. And I remember I got to the point where I was like, shoot, I need to tell him. Like, it's strong enough that I need to tell him. And literally, I was like pacing in our kitchen.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
And I was using cuss words, you guys.
This girl does
Whoa.
not
in our
cuss.
kitchen because
She
I
was
was
like,
like,
"Oh,
I gotta tell
darn."
him. Like, you know, when you like it hits you like, this is what I need to do.
Yeah.
I just need to tell him because it's like too strong now. So anyway, I think like that moment I like texted him. I was like, hey, would you like want to meet up and chat through some things? And
Some things.
something like
Wait,
that. I
where'd you
can't
all
remember.
meet? If you want to tell, you don't have to.
I can't remember.
Wasn't it like a coffee shop or something?
I honestly can't remember.
Okay.
Anyways.
And so then I just was like, hey, I like you.
That's
I
right.
can't remember exactly how I said it, but
I
it
was
was
like,
something
what?
like I'm like having some feels, you know. Where are you at? And just owned it, which that
Love
alone
it.
was like a big win for me.
That was a huge. That was
because-
one of your first
yes,
owning,
yeah,
right?
Owning your
Yeah.
feelings.
And at first, he reciprocated some interest. And so we actually ended up going on like a few dates. And then at the end of it, he decided it was a no for him. So this is my second win of the same situation. First win was that I owned my feelings.
Yes.
Second win was I like had a lot of respect for him, just thought he like had a ton of integrity, was just like a great guy. And so in the past, like if somebody like that rejected me, I would just be like, oh my gosh, like kind of like just abandon ship, you know, like abandon myself, not be on my own team anymore, and just be like, oh my gosh, like of course he rejected me. And I remember this time journaling it out and being like, I think I'm awesome still. Like
That's a win.
it really was like I was able to stay on my own team and not like
Yeah.
not just like ruminate over like, you know, the ways that my personality wasn't
Yeah.
good enough, or that I wasn't funny enough, or that I messed up, you know, on this date, or like I was just like, you know what? No, I think like I still believe that I have a lot to offer, and that like I'm attractive, and that somebody out there is gonna want to pick me.
Yeah.
And that was huge.
That's
yeah,
so
that was
good.
huge for me, because it's just so easy. Like when you're rejected, it's easy to reject yourself also, but that's what makes it so much more painful, is not actually the person rejecting you, but you rejecting yourself.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's true.
So like me learning how to like stand my own team and be like, hey, Andrea, you know, that guy didn't choose you, but I choose you. You know, like
That's
I love
huge.
you and who you are and your personality, and I don't need you to be anybody else. Because I think that's what would happen to me a lot, is I'd be like, how can I be someone else who's good enough, you know?
Yeah.
So that was like a huge deal for me. And honestly, I don't think we would have worked out. So in the
For the
moment,
best.
I was like, ouch, but now I'm like, that was definitely for the best.
Well, and
So-
there was like a good attraction there, and
Yeah, for
you know,
sure.
you guys were friends and all that.
Yeah.
Something I think that's really key that Andrea talked about is this idea of we will turn on ourselves when we're rejected by
Yes.
people,
Yeah.
instead of being on our team, and
Mhm.
saying, you know, like you said, you were being powerful of, I'm gonna love myself even when this person doesn't want to be in that intimate relationship with me for whatever reasons. And so I think that's what people do, is they'll just be like, well, what's wrong with me? You know?
Yeah.
Which it's okay to look inwardly at, like, are there things I need to change or
Right.
grow in? But
Yeah.
I think we'll just go into self-hatred
Yeah.
Yeah.
automatically.
Totally.
So
Yeah. I think I had actually asked him if it was anything too. I think like I was like open to feedback.
yeah.
But I think it was like a compatibility thing, which
Yeah.
is totally valid. That's the other thing, is it's not personal.
Yeah.
Like sometimes it's
It
really just
really is
compatibility,
compatibility.
and you just have to be like, okay.
Which is
That's
so
fine.
hard, because you just want it to fit like a
Oh,
puzzle
yeah.
piece, and sometimes it just doesn't fit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And then you also have to get some hype girls in your corner.
Yeah,
I
here
feel
we
like,
are.
oh yeah,
to
you gotta
be
have hype.
just fiercely loyal and be
Yes.
like,
He's a
you
fool.
know, yeah, be like, we're not gonna trash talk him,
Yeah,
but also
but
We're gonna trash
we
talk him.
are a little bit,
But
right
a
now,
little
just for
bit.
this moment,
Yeah.
to make you feel better.
Or
and
like-
But then we trash talk each other, so it's like,
Yeah, you know, there's
Equal.
some trash everywhere.
trash everywhere. So, well, Kalli,
There's trash.
do you have
Well,
any success? Or
Yes.
you're gonna say something?
One other thing I was just gonna say is like I just loved how your perspective shifted in that, just with journaling, being like, oh, this is actually like a success. Like I had a conversation that I needed to, and like we tried it, and like okay, like didn't work out. But I remember that going through that with you and just watching like the phases that you went through. And I was so freaking proud of you when you were like, I need to have a conversation. I know I've reached that point and like I'm gonna do it. And I was just like, yeah. And I think I was like today, because
Yeah.
I remember like walking into it and you were like,
Yeah.
yeah, I just texted him and I was like, oh my
I was
gosh.
like, I can't chicken out. I got to do it today.
But
So good.
just so freaking proud of you. And I think that's
Aw.
amazing for all of us that we've actually mentioned at different times. We've all come to a point where we're like, oh, I need to have a conversation
Yeah.
with somebody and just
Yeah.
let them know how I feel.
Mhm.
I'm not going to manipulate them. I'm just going to own my feelings.
Yep.
This person might reject me or
Yep.
it might lead to something.
Yeah.
And I think it's really great that we've all come to that point in our
Yeah.
lives of like, I need to have a conversation. I'm going to own how I feel, and something might happen, something might not.
Yeah.
So,
And it's gone both ways.
Yeah,
It
it
has created
has.
movement and it has not.
and
So,
we've
Yeah.
lived through it.
Yeah. We're still here.
Yeah,
alive
still here.
today.
Still alive and
I
dating.
don't know if we'll make it through the Montana gunshots that are
my
happening
gosh,
outside,
wow.
but we're here for now.
Oh my gosh.
I was going to say one more thing too with that is like your heart is, I don't know, it's almost like this little kid inside of you that deserves to have a voice. Like every time I've given my heart a voice, instead of being like, no, just be quiet. Like, don't feel that way. Don't like, just shove it down. You don't want to embarrass yourself. Like, you're basically like a parent to yourself. Like, research says, no, I'm just kidding. I mean, it does say, but I just like would never have a reference. But anyway, it's a real thing where you're like, okay, when I communicate what's on my heart, the message I'm sending to my heart is you're valuable.
Yeah.
How you feel matters. Like, and that you like can totally have feelings for this person, like, because you're like, he's a high quality person, but so are you. Like, you're not crazy for thinking that something could happen here, like, and you communicate so much value to that like little person inside of you when you speak for yourself and speak for your heart. And yeah, so that's been a huge thing for me is like, okay, even when I'm rejected, it feels so good that I let my heart have a voice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully that person feels amazing that someone's interested
Yeah.
in them.
Right.
Honestly.
Even
yeah.
if they're not like interested back, it's, I don't know, the people who, when they've been like, I'm interested in you, even if I'm not reciprocating it, I'm like, way to go for being bold. And then
Yes.
also, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah,
being
it always
interested
makes
in
my
me.
day.
Yeah.
It always makes my
Since
day.
people are telling us
Yeah.
all the time how much they like us.
Constantly.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Every week when somebody comes to me and tells me how attractive I am,
No,
it makes my week.
It makes me think of that Friends episode where Rachel wants to tell Ross she loves him, and she's like, people love hearing that. Like,
It's true.
Aw, so
and they like
sweet.
tease her. But
Yeah.
Love
you
that.
know, he
It's a
does say
true
it later. He's
thing.
like, it's always nice to hear. She's like, that's what I was saying. So
So
It's
cute.
true.
yes. Okay, this is such a random success story. But for me, once again, my go-to is like usually to not approach guys as much, or to like kind of shut myself down or be like, whatever, like it's fine.
She plays it cool.
Yeah, just play it really cool.
Chill.
Cold shoulder. No, just kidding.
They like it that way though. They're like, ooh,
They're like,
She's pining
mystery.
inside.
Yeah. So
she hates me. She loves me. We
pining
don't know.
so hard. But I was at this wedding and I had like danced with a couple guys.
Whoa.
And it was, I know, woo, it was really fun. But there was one guy at this wedding that I'm like, oh, he's super attractive. Like, he's the one I would like to ask me to dance.
Lucky guy.
And he was not coming over to me. And I was just, I was like, I've danced with all these other people. I'm feeling good. So I'm like, I can ask him to dance. And so I just went over to him and I was like, hey, would you want to dance? And he's like, yeah, I'd love to. Jumps up. We have a dance. It's so chill. Like, literally, like nothing came from it. But we had a dance and I was like, I did it. Like, I wanted something and I went and I got it. And it was
That's right.
like actually so easy. And I could have just been like, went home and been like, dang it. Like, you go over scenarios in your head and you like are like, oh, what could I have done?
Yeah.
But I was just like super small win, but like
That's so
I just
good.
took a risk and it was really fun. And I didn't walk away either being like, oh, I wish something more had happened. Like, it was just a very small thing where once again I kind of like felt something in my heart and I'm like, oh, I want to take a risk here, and I did it, and that was a win in itself. So yeah, that was my success.
Good job, Kalli. You made his night.
Yeah, you're welcome, bartender at the wedding.
So good. So good.
Yeah.
Should I go?
Yes.
Go for
Okay.
it. Let's hear it.
These are also very nostalgic. I don't know if you all feel this way. Just bring up some of these like failures and successes.
Yeah, and like, can we have some like music in the background from like 2005?
Totally,
Yeah,
totally.
2010.
So
Yeah.
another nostalgic. I think it was a success for me. I had gone through a really hard breakup and super sad, really heartbroken. And Andrea had mentioned this guy that she's like, I think you and this guy would connect really well. And I was like, no, because my heart was really hurt. And it was just a hard place. But I added him on Facebook.
Not LinkedIn. I'm just
Not
kidding.
LinkedIn, on
That's your
Facebook.
normal
Which also
go-to.
Facebook is like super old school for us as
Yeah.
millennials. It's still like, Facebook. But that person added me back. And we started Facebook messaging. And this was like a time where I was still just like really heartbroken, but we started like a friendship, and it was just through Facebook at first, but it was so fun. I remember we like Facebook messaged for like 3 hours back and forth, but it was so life-giving and like bantering and just like, so what, and then it ended up being that he was like, hey, I'd love for you to like come to my city and like let's go like on a date. And so we planned like this whole day together, and it just helped me lift my sadness. Like this relationship with this person was just like really like fun and life-giving, and nothing really came much out after like that date. But we had this amazing date. It was like probably one of my favorites. We like went to the beach. We like got to go see other friends, went to like get tacos, went to a birthday party, and it was just like a sweet day. Like the whole day was so fun.
Yeah.
But I think I was just really thankful for someone, like another, almost like it like lifted my heart to be open again.
Yeah.
And that felt like a really big win of just like this person felt really key to bring like healing from like a really painful time of my life. Even if it didn't end up being like became serious or like anything after that. And so that was like a win for me of letting my heart be opened by someone, and also allowing like a really good person to like come into my life, even if it was just for like a season. So yeah, one person I've dated before, I feel like I've dated 1,000 people, was like, sometimes you date, what was it? Sometimes you date for a season, sometimes you date for a reason, and sometimes you date for a lifetime.
Oh.
So
I remember.
hopefully
Yeah.
one person, only a lifetime. So,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ideally.
But it's not
super
wrong.
cheesy, but it's like
It's
kind of
true.
helpful.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like
Puts
it.
it into perspective.
Yeah.
So
It's true.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, any final takeaways? We could go around and just sum it up with like one takeaway.
Yeah. I think just in listening to our stories, it's cool because really like there is no hard like this was an absolute failure and this was an absolute success. Like if you look at it, they're just intrinsically linked, I would say. Like you're like, I can see through that failure how it led to success, or that what I thought was success kind of was a failure. I don't know. It's just like there is no necessarily black and white, like this is how you do it. It is just a journey that we're all figuring out. We're all learning, and you can just like glean from any experience, and you do truly like just grow as a person. And even like you said, if nothing happens, there are moments where you're like, oh yeah, and you just remember it, and it's either nostalgic or it brings you back to a certain place, or it was a really big moment. And I think that is just like really fun and really sweet. And I love that through dating we get to just experience humanity, I guess. And grow. I think that's probably the biggest thing. So yeah, even though this is called failures and successes in dating, I think really it's all kind of a success.
Yeah.
Yeah. In its
I
own
was
way.
thinking that. I was like, my success story was actually a fail. But but you're right. It's because they're kind of like wraps in
and it's just
to each other.
I think your perspective is huge.
Yes. I was going to say that is the perspective shifting. Like some of these stories were such devastating stories at one point in my life, and now I see it as, how do I shape this into something where it's like I'm growing from it, and we're bringing a positive spin of like, how do I gain from these situations for myself and for the next person I date, reflecting on them. So it's not just, oh, that failed, that sucked. And some of
Yeah.
it does suck.
Yeah.
Like, it's so painful.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's the hard thing about dating and taking risks, is you're opening your heart up to hurt and to pain. But you're not a real human if you don't invite yourself into pain and love.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so opening your heart, you can gain great love, and you can also gain great pain. And that's just like the story of life. And that thankfully we have God to help heal those pains and to help us in that journey. And so
Yeah. I think the last thing I would say is that when you're approaching dating, I think you need to define what success looks like, and some people may need to redefine what success looks like, because if success looks like marriage to you, you're going to feel like a failure all the time
Yeah.
with dating. A. B, you don't want success to be tied to somebody else, like in the sense that like they need to feel a certain way or they need to act a certain way. Like you have to be like, okay, what does success look like that's totally something that's in my control? So it can't be like getting a boyfriend, because that takes two people.
Yeah.
So success might be like, owning your feelings, and it doesn't have to be I own my feelings and then they reciprocate, because that's something that's out of your control. Success is that you owned your feelings. And success is maybe that you were kind and compassionate to yourself when they didn't reciprocate. Like, it's like, what is in my control so that I like, because otherwise you're not going to risk, because it's going to be like, well, what if I risk and it doesn't work out? Like, it's like, no, risk is what the success is. It's not like something working out. So yeah, get out there, guys.
Yeah, let's go.
Guys, thanks for coming to Montana to do this podcast
Oh my
with me.
goodness.
Such a privilege.
What a pleasure. It's
I
been.
love Montana.
Thank
Everyone
you.
visit Montana. It's the best.
Yeah. Montana
Literally.
sponsor
Yeah,
us.
they'll sponsor us.
Oh
The
my gosh,
state.
I'm obsessed.
As a
Obsessed.
state.
Well,
Yeah. Thanks for joining us.
we gotta go get
See
dinner.
you all.
Yeah, and go swing dancing.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my
Giving them the full
goodness.
Some
treatment.
risks.
Yeah.
Gotta go take some risks on the dance floor.
Stay tuned for our swing dancing stories.
Oh no.
They're
I'm
gonna be
nervous.
good.
Ay, ay, ay. Well, good to
All
see you
right.
all.
Love you all.
Bye.
And
Bye.
talk soon.